Welcome everyone to the third edition of PECHA KUCHA. Yay! Thank you for being here. Some of you might not know what you're getting yourself into, so let me explain a little bit. PECHA KUCHA literally means chit-chat. It was devised in Japan, I don't know, about 15 years ago, and by some architects who were tired of presenting PowerPoint presentations and watching the audience snooze through them. So how can they do something different and better? And they came upon a kind of visual and fast way to present. Each presenter will have 20 slides and 20 seconds per slide to tell their story. There's no pausing. Once they start, their talk will be over in 6 minutes and 40 seconds, which you might say, oh, I wish I had more, or can't wait till I get to the next one. But either way, it will be over soon. And we've got 8 great presenters. This is really a celebration of creativity, clarity, if I could say the word clarity, right? And concise storytelling. We have a group with different perspectives, histories, and passions. Speaking of history, Muskegon Community College is celebrating its 100th anniversary this year. Hey, hard to believe. And PECHA KUCHA is happy to be part of that celebration. So sit back, stay supportive and curious, and feast your eyes, your ears, and your brains on our fearless presenters. It takes a lot of nerve to do this. So, without further ado, let's get started. We're going to start with our youngest presenter. Kylie Jackson is, in fact, the youngest city commissioner ever elected in Muskegon, just recently. So, congratulations, Kylie. She proves that fresh ideas and bold leadership don't have to wait their turn. A Muskegon Community College graduate, go Jayhawks, and Grand Valley State University graduate, go Lakers, with a bachelor's degree in political science and human rights. Kylie is passionate about the community and community engagement, equity, and making local government actually feel local. When she's not in City Hall, she focuses on building bridges, I think figuratively, uplifting young voices, and helping Muskegon to thrive. She also loves basketball and traveling. So please help me welcome Kylie Jackson and her talk, Listening to Lead.
Ready for the first slide. This is a map of Muskegon. It is the magnificent city where I grew up, where I learned, and where I chose to stay. Like any city, it holds so much pride and power, but also pain at the same time. But it is home, and that is what matters. People tend to visit and see Lake Michigan, and they understand our shoreline city. Beauty is easy to spot. The harder part is noticing who doesn't get to enjoy it equally. This is the Muskegon City Commission chamber. The power isn't in the actual city chamber. It is in the lives that are affected daily by the decisions that are made here, whether or not those people actually ever walk into the room. I didn't originally think I was going to start off being a city commissioner, but I did grow up listening and asking why some people were heard and why others were ignored. After attending MCC, I transferred to Grand Valley and studied political science and human rights. After many classes and hours of studying, I can tell you nothing prepared me to lead as much as listening to my community did. Before I ever ran, I learned how to listen, to talk, not to respond, but to understand. What I learned was that policy is not abstract. When you are out door knocking and standing on a stranger's doorstep, it becomes personal. They ask you different questions about how you're going to lead the community, and they try and build trust. This is what redlining is, and this is what it looks like in Muskegon. This is why affordable housing isn't just a talking point. It's whether or not somebody can afford to stay in their neighborhood. And transportation in Muskegon decides whether or not somebody gets to work, whether or not they can go to school, the doctor, and their access to different opportunities, and then those who get left behind waiting. And when young people feel ignored, they either disengage or they rise up. And the young Kylie in this photo decided to rise. After knocking on many doors throughout the summer and the fall, I learned that citizens truly don't want perfection, that they want honesty and effort and accountability. My campaign wasn't about money or machinery or the people that I knew. It was about all of the people, trust, and the community involvement. And throughout the campaign, I learned that change takes a long time, but momentum builds when people finally feel seen and they feel heard. And that's how I ended up standing before you. On election night, when I found out that I had won, I knew that becoming the youngest city commissioner in Muskegon's history wasn't just for me, but it was for the entire city. And also that having a title doesn't make you a leader, but responsibility, action, and accountability does. And after a Fox 17 news article about me, with many comments asking about how I was going to lead at the age of 23, representation isn't about age, background, or your credentials, a college degree, or even a high school diploma. It's about whether the people who chose you to lead believe you'll show up for them and whether or not you will succeed at that. My role now is to build bridges between generations, neighborhoods, and ideas that may not always agree. And true leadership begins with listening, not talking, not planning a rebuttal, but just listening. The future of our city isn't decided solely by one election. It's built daily by the people who care enough to participate. And if I learned anything, and if there was one thing for me to take away from everything I've learned in my short life, it is that real change begins when you show up and you choose to stay. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kylie, for getting us off to a great start. I think it is wonderful to have a diversity of ages represented within our government. So thank you for stepping up and running and doing all the hard work to get there. I do enjoy being here in Overbrook Theater, and it's a great facility, and I want to point out that in the end of March, I think it's the 26th through the 29th, is our next play production. This is where the plays take place, and it is called Elephant's Graveyard. What's that about? Well, from what I Googled, this is the true tale of the tragic 1916 collision of a struggling circus and a tiny town in Tennessee. Elephant's Graveyard combines historical fact and legend, exploring the deep-seated American craving for spectacle, violence, and revenge. Ooh. So I hope you can make it. All right, staying within the arts. Our next presenter is the newest full-time instructor of art at Muskegon Community College, Chip Vanderweer. Chip, yay, Chip. Chip is a sculptor and art educator living in and working in West Michigan. He started his creative journey at a young age when he first welded toy pieces together by friction heating plastic parts. He has always been curious about the world, particularly the natural world. He enjoys spending time in and on or near Lake Michigan. Besides daydreaming, traveling also provides him with inspiration for his artwork. Chip obtained his BFA with a dual emphasis in sculpture and ceramics from Grand Valley State University in 1997. And in 1996, he was chosen by Grand Valley faculty to study sculpture abroad at Kingston University in southwest London. In 2012, Chip earned his master's degree in art education from Aquinas College, and he currently teaches 3D form and space and ceramics here at the college. Chip often combines welded steel, carved wood, and ceramics in his sculptures, and he's currently exploring form and surface treatment in his ceramic sculptures. So please help me in welcoming Chip Vanderweer and his talk, The Joy of Curiosity.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you, everybody, for coming out on this beautiful evening. And this is going to be interesting and fun, and I'm really looking forward to it. You all are here tonight because you're curious. The American writer, Dorothy Parker, once said, "The cure for boredom is curiosity, but there is no cure for curiosity." Curiosity certainly has two faces. Tonight, I'd like to share with you how my curiosity has informed me and my art. For many of us, stacking blocks introduced us to gravity, and that's when I started becoming curious about how tall or how big or how long I could make things. Yes, if you're curious enough, you'll discover that a Tinker Toy rod will fit in your ear. Really, though, that's not one of the best aspects of curiosity. The Treehouse book by David Stiles introduced me to architecture. Outfitted with a notebook and a pocket knife, I learned about cartography while making maps of the wilderness near the mouth of the Muskegon River and spending copious hours in nature building makeshift forts. As a young whippersnapper, I had a lot of models, but finishing them was not a forte of mine. When I got the Spin Doctor, well, that was a game changer. The spin welder. I could take the unused parts from the different models and put them together and create something entirely new. This was my introduction to found object art. Soon after, I discovered the junkyard, where I could go and buy old bicycle parts, put the different parts together, make a custom bike. Then I could make jumps. Evel Knievel was rather inspiring. This led to a decade of questionable decisions, the dark side of curiosity. Fast forward, I emerged at Kingston University in southwest London studying sculpture. Nearby, Richmond Park was a lovely place to reconnect with nature, big deer, old English oak trees. Walking a game trail one day, I spied something really curious that was in the ground. It was a World War II hand grenade. The park had been used for training British troops during the wars, and apparently some items were left behind. And as you can see, my picture made the cover of the Kingston Informer, which was distributed to 40,000 Southwest Londoners. Upon returning home, I became real curious about fermentation and the brewing process. This was my first beer-inspired work, a 4-foot by 6-foot woodcut titled Frank's Kitchen. Frank's in the house. My curiosity informed my art, and soon I realized that most of my art really is a result of my curiosity. So after college, I started building brew systems to keep up my welding skills. I developed beer recipes to scratch that creative itch. This is a system I built. It's a 3-tier, 10-gallon, all-grain brew rig on wheels. It was Xanadu. As you can see on the right, I'm still stacking things. I also become curious about chemical patinas formulated for steel. I started making drawings out of metal. When applied to the drawings, the chemical patinas plate the surface of the steel. And here are 2 examples of some of the metal drawings. In Hymn to Nicasie, 2013, I combined my curiosities of fermentation and metal patinas. This depicts the brewing process in 4 steps: the mash tun, the boil kettle, fermentation vessels, and the dispenser. Meanwhile, a client commissioned me to make a piece of art using only items found in the basement of her childhood home. Her mother had recently passed, and she was cleaning the house. The basement was loaded with objects for me to use. So this is the before picture of my studio. The final work was a found object assemblage of curiosities from the 1940s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. It's about 7 feet long and 2 feet tall. The only element of the work that is not from the basement is the steel frame, which I built. Yep, I'm still stacking things. On the left is the bed. It's 7.5 feet tall. It's inspired by the fable, The Princess and the Pea. But there's no princess, and there's no pea. It's just the bed. On the right is a stacked assemblage of wood, steel, and ceramic pieces, and that one's about 3 feet tall. Back to fermentation, sort of. I became curious about a centuries-old Eastern European firing technique called obvera. It's a process which requires a solution of flour, yeast, sugar, and water to be fermented for 3 days prior to the firing. The process is similar to raku. The results will always vary and are only slightly predictable. The peasants in Eastern Europe would use this technique to seal their earthenware cooking vessels. The burnt carbohydrates create a protective layer on the ceramic pieces to make them safe for use with food. A few years ago, curiosity brought 30-plus letterpress trays into my life. I wonder how I could incorporate them into my art. And as you'll see in my last slide, I figured out use. Are you curious? Visually, I really like the grid pattern. This got me thinking about proportions and the golden ratio, the golden spiral, and how it's a geometric calculation that expresses aesthetic beauty found throughout the natural world. It has inspired artists and architects for centuries. With just a compass and a straight edge, the simple elegance can be scaled up or down very easily. This piece, called the altar, I used the golden ratio to design the credenza. The proportions are intended to be those found in nature, classical architecture, and the cosmos. There are unglazed porcelain pinched forms that are stacked on top of the base. And voila, I used the letterpress trays to add texture and volume to my most recent work. I create ceramic forms and I stack them, parts upon parts. My curiosity has never waned. My curiosity has come full circle, always informing my art. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Chip. I think we can see why Chip's a really great instructor, and I'm so glad he's back. You know, he was here, then he left for, 8 years or so? Now he's back. We're so thrilled. And also, we will have an intermission, and after that, during that intermission, and actually afterwards, you're welcome to go to the gallery and see some of his artwork that's in there. We're having a faculty art show right now, and it's just right outside in the lobby there. So do look for it. Also, if you're interested, again, it is our 100 years there, and you can go in there at intermission or afterwards, and John Mills is in there, and he's doing 100 voices for 100 years. If you'd like to talk about, for just a few minutes, your connection to MCC and the 100 years of which it's existed. So it's very laid back. I've done it. You can do it. So go and see the artwork too. All right. Next up, I could talk a long time about Diana Osborne. The college is celebrating a 100-year anniversary, and I think no one has been more intimately connected to MCC during those years than Diana Osborne. Diana started at Muskegon Community College in 1966 as a student and work study. Her hard work and dedication led her from being a secretary to director of personnel to head of administrative services, and then 2 stints as the first and second woman to be president of Muskegon Community College. Diana retired in 2010, but didn't stay away very long. In fact, that year she won an election to be on the board of trustees of the college and has been there ever since and is currently now the chairman of the board. So if anyone has a good view of the college over the past 100 years, I think it's Diana Osborne. Diana also has been an active leader in the community, including being on the board of Goodwill and the Michigan Public School Employees Retirement Board. During her time here at the college, she spearheaded many campus improvements, including the Stevenson Center for Higher Education, the Hendrick Meyer Library and Information Technology Center, the Student One-Stop renovations, and what she considers to be her crowning achievement, being on the selection team when I was hired in 2000. I might have wrote that one. All right. Anyways, it's my honor to welcome Diana Osborne to the stage and her talk, 100 Years of MCC and What I Know About It.
As you can tell, I'm getting a little old, too. I think Andy already mentioned that this year, Muskegon Community College is its 100th year anniversary, and I'm here this evening to share what I know about MCC. So, here we go. MCC is the 4th oldest community college in the state. It was established in 1926, the Muskegon Public Schools Board of Education, and was called Muskegon Junior College. It was originally housed in the Muskegon Senior School, High School. In 1934, enrollment had grown beyond capacity. The then junior college moved into the Hackley School downtown in Muskegon. This was a good move for students like me who could not find a place to park. In 1995, it was renamed, Muskegon Community College. In 1963, MCC separated from the Muskegon Public Schools and elected a board of trustees. The new campus opened in 1967 when architect Eldon B. Dow, a student of Frank Lloyd Wright, put a diamond-shaped building into the rough. People were always surprised at what was out there, including the creek and the nature trail. The 4 Mile Creek was dammed up to make it look larger, but one morning found it nearly empty. Muskrats had chewed it up. The Chronicle wrote an article, and the headline was, "Muskrat Love." That was by Captain and Tennille. My first job at MCC was in 1967. I worked in the Continuing Education Adult Learning Department. All of my bosses taught me well, with the exception of one who taught me what not to do. I was the executive vice president upon retirement. In 1981, we started the Foundation for MCC. It was originally a fundraiser. It is now a major fundraiser and helped funded the first addition to the new building in 1988, Frauenthal Foundation Fine Arts Center, which included the Overbrook Theater. The MCC college instructor, Casey Hartz, established the public nature area in April 1970. The main trail loops about approximately 1 mile, with the first 600 a wheelchair accessible area. The 4 Mile Creek runs through that area. In January 1995, construction began on the Stevenson Higher Education Center, named after Dr. James Stevenson, prior college president. The plan was for MCC to provide the first years, and the partners were Grand Valley, Western, and Ferris. At that project managed, we went to those three schools and got their capital outlay for free, and we had our 25% that moving on. MCC had a wonderful nursing program. It got even better. MCC has always had a wonderful nursing program. It is not even, oh shoot. When our former president, Dr. Jack Thompson, made the program an associate degree program, recently we have partnered with Grand Valley for an ADN BSN program. The Hendrick Meyer Library was built in 2006, and the new library was pulled out of the middle of the building and moved to the front. This was to provide better access. The Meyer Foundation made a major gift to the library. The library was not about books anymore. In 2014, the Peter and Carolyn Sturz Technology Center opened. In 2015, Jonathan Brooks donated the Masonic Temple to entrepreneurial studies. Nick Sarnicola donated a large permanent and endowment for the Fab Lab. In October 2008, the interim president gave a state of the college, calling it Fleetwood Mac's Don't Stop Thinking About Tomorrow. That fall opened the new student center, renovated the Gerber Lounge, and brought many services together. In August 2015, MCC opened the Home of Life Science Department, college biology labs, and research area. The facility earned the Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design Gold certification. Commencement is the highlight of the whole year. It was wonderful, uplifting, and gives me a chance to say, congratulations, you did it, and come back and take a class. You didn't have to have a chance to take. Come back to the theater, come back to a sporting event, just come back. In 2019, the Jayhawk Hub opened, a place where currently enrolled MCC students can get help through a variety of resources to added basic needs and challenges, such as food, insecurity, transportation, emergencies, and other needs. MCC is the only community college in the state who owns a golf course. It is a 9-hole public course. The course has also been used for cross-country meets and in the past, cross-country skiing. It's a great community resource. In November 2018, the MCC Health and Wellness Center opened. The facility hosts health, physical education, and recreation departments, the medical assistant program, the athletic department, health simulation lab, gym, running, track, and fitness. Muskegon Community College has been my life, and it has always makes me think of the Eagles Hotel California, which you can check out anytime you like, but you can't ever leave. MCC is a part of you. We will be hosting an evening with MCC June 20th at the Van Dyke Mortgage Convention Center, downtown. I hope to see you all there. Let's bring it out, okay? Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you.
All right. That was wonderful to get that history and all of that Diana's worked on. You know, a lot of times we see these buildings, but I think really what Diana has done over the 60 years I've been here is to really work well with people. And you could always depend and trust Diana. So I think she's going to come out of the wing here in a second. When she does, if we could give her another rounding of applause for all she's done for MCC in the community. Thank you, Diana. All right, we are going to have one more speaker, and then we will have intermission. And it is an 11-minute intermission if you want to set your clock. So it's not too long, but 11 minutes, and then we'll be back in here for our second half. But I think we're ending the first half on a high note, a little something different, I think. Now, Dr. Al Steinman. I've long enjoyed Al for his commitment to the community, his engaging personality, his intelligence, and his inability to say no. Al Steinman, I have him give speeches to my class, to any group, really, and he's always willing to do so, and always been there for the community. Al Steinman is the Allen and Helen Hunting Research Professor of Grand Valley State University's Annis Water Resource Institute. Previously, he was the director of the Water Resource Institute for 22 years, and before that, director of the Lake Okeechobee Restoration Program at the South Florida Water Management District. Dr. Steinman has published over 210 scientific articles, book chapters, and books, and has been awarded over $60 million in grants for scientific and engineering projects and over $6 million in private fundraising. And he's testified before Congress and the Michigan and Florida state legislatures. In addition to his many awards, he has the unique distinctions of, 1, receiving a death threat based upon his work in the Everglades, and 2, was a member of the first team to hike into Mount St. Helens after the eruption. He's an avid runner and cyclist, is a truly awful piano player, and expresses his limited creativity through baking. Al has been invited to speak around the globe and maintains active collaboration with colleagues in Scotland and China. He received his BS from the University of Vermont, his master's from the University of Rhode Island, and his PhD from Oregon State University, leading to a post-doctoral research fellowship from Oak Ridge National Laboratory. So, without further ado, please help me welcome Dr. Alan Steinman and his talk, 10 Lessons on How Failure Can Lead to Success.
I don't need to give the talk anymore. Andy just did it for me. So thank you very much. All right, first slide, please. Tonight I'm going to talk to you about how failures and near failures in my life have ended up leading to successes. Each example uses 2 slides. The first will provide the context, and the second provides the lesson learned. I plan to present my top 10 failures tonight, as Andy said, but consistent with my theme of screwing up, I only have time for 9. Okay. In high school, I was active in sports. I was a class officer, but I was often bored. My grades were pretty mediocre. So my guidance counselor told me to consider a local community college, such as Muskegon Community College, for my education. But that was until I took my SATs, which actually turned out really, really good, and all of a sudden I was Ivy League material. For each failure or near failure that I'm going to share with you tonight, I also provide some corresponding wisdom or advice. In this first lesson, based on my high school experience, when overnight I magically transformed from mediocre student to an Ivy League scholar, my advice to you here is lesson number 1. Don't let others, whether it's a guidance counselor, friend, or parent, impose limits on you. I started off as a political science major, like Kylie, in college, expecting to be an environmental lawyer, but I changed majors to botany after my sophomore year. That summer, between sophomore and junior years, I was working a 40-hour job, I was taking organic chemistry, and I was taking inorganic chemistry, and needless to say, I felt really overwhelmed. And I wasn't doing very well in inorganic chemistry, which is ironic, because that's what I do now. I asked the professor, was there anything I could do to raise my grade, because I needed to get a C to maintain my scholarship. He looked at me and said, "We're giving you a scholarship?" And I understood that, but despite his skepticism, and though I didn't deserve it, he did give me the C, leading to lesson number 2, don't be afraid to plead your case. I went on to receive my master's at URI, University of Rhode Island. I was the first graduate student of a young professor, Bob Sheath, shown here, who's now one of the leading algal experts in the world. Bob taught me a lot. I received a great education in algae and stream ecology, and I benefited tremendously from his advice and from his leadership. But what I learned from Bob was lesson number 3. Don't forget to have fun along the way. We had lots of parties. We always stopped for ice cream after a field work. We learned the importance of loving what you do for a living and always made time to laugh. And as Hans Christian Andersen once said, enjoy life. There's plenty of time to be dead. I received my PhD at Oregon State University, as Andy said. One of my dissertation committee members was Dr. Jane Lubchenco, who served as the administrator of NOAA during the Obama administration and is one of the best-known marine ecologists in the world. My PhD defense was going pretty well until I made a major faux pas. My advisor asked me to differentiate between autotrophy and allelopathy. And I said to Dave, my advisor, "You got to be kidding me." To which Jane immediately retorted in a tone eerily familiar to my mother when I broke one of her prized vases, "Steinman, don't get cocky." Don't get that very often. So my advice to all of us is to exercise some humility. That's lesson number 4. Mike Tyson says, if you're not humble, life will visit humbleness upon you. As Andy said, I was part of the first team to hike into Mount St. Helens after the eruption. It was a scientific expedition to collect algae from the streams inside the crater. One of the requirements that the U.S. Geological Survey imposed on us was to bring a radio. Our fearless team leader decided he was going to bring a video camera instead, and so we got a great video, but we had a minor accident. Fortunately, we didn't have to call to get evacuated out of the crater by helicopter because we didn't have a freaking radio, we had a video camera. And remember, this was before cell phones. So the lesson to you, lesson number 5, is if you find yourself in a similar situation, be careful with whom you hike into an active volcano. After I completed my PhD, I couldn't find a job. I mean, anywhere I couldn't find a job. So in my last, what I thought was my swan song from academia, I presented at the 1987 annual meeting of the Ecological Society of America in Columbus, Ohio. And I really thought this was going to be it. But a person in the audience saw my talk, and he asked me to interview for a postdoc at Oak Ridge National Lab. I actually received 2 offers at Oak Ridge, where I spent the next 5 years. So lesson number 6 is to be tenacious, never give up. If at first you don't succeed, then skydiving definitely isn't for you. Oak Ridge was a great place to work. I was privileged to work there, but my introduction to the lab was definitely an eye-opener. My secretary's first words to me, "Are you a Yankee or a damn Yankee?" I said, all right, Martha, I'll bite. What's the difference? She said, the difference between a Yankee and a damn Yankee is that Yankees go back home. Oak Ridge National Lab was a stimulating environment, aside from Martha, we'll let her go. I worked with brilliant scientists who focused on really interesting problems, challenging, the work was rewarding, had profound implications for ecosystem science, and was a professional blessing, which leads to lesson number 7. Always try to collaborate with people who are smarter than yourself. As Andy said, prior to coming to Muskegon, I worked on Everglades restoration, focusing on Lake Okeechobee and its watershed. Being a Yankee and all, I'm not embarrassed to admit that I was a little afraid of getting into Lake Okeechobee because they had alligators. They had big alligators, right? But on the first trip, this old timer in the boat with me said to me, he goes, Al, don't worry about the gators. The water moccasins will get you first. South Florida, especially on the Atlantic side, is very litigious, very aggressive. I'm not joking when I tell you our public meetings had armed guards there, and as Andy said, I had a death threat that was left on my home phone. I always caution my staff, and I'm sharing now with all of you, lesson number 8, keep your head below the shrapnel line. I was truly blessed to be selected as the new director of the Annis Water Resources Institute almost 25 years ago. Muskegon embraced me, and I went to work with many other partners in this community to restore Muskegon Lake. Last fall, when Muskegon Lake was officially delisted as a Great Lakes Area of Concern, it was a great source of pride for me and for the community. The lake had suffered many abuses over the past 150 years, and while the lake is certainly not perfect now, hopefully we have learned from our prior mistakes. J. Harold Smith leaves us with the final lesson: more people would learn from their mistakes if they weren't so busy denying them. So in summary, I would say to you, work with people smarter than yourself, collaborate with people, particularly who are fun, but it's also nice to have them be responsible, not ego-driven, and it's also good to be lucky. And that leaves us with the last quote from Thomas Edison: luck is the residue of skill. Thank you very much. I guess we go to intermission. Are you going to say anything, Andy?
All right, welcome back, everybody. I guess it's still intermission if the name's still up there. I don't know. Well, thanks for being back, and I think we got a great second half. I hope you saw why Dr. Steinman is someone I always try to invite to speak wherever I can. He's a terrific speaker, and thank you again for your talk. We're starting off our second half with Chad Lowy, and his wife did one of these and was actually the first PECHA KUCHA speaker we had on the first year, and so it's a tradition that's being passed on. I know Chad initially because he showed up in my class, and was he the best student I've ever had? No. In fact, I assigned him to watch a movie, and I saw him probably 5 years after he graduated, and he said, "Oh, hey, I finally watched that movie." So perseverance is important. But I think what I liked about Chad was, in a way, he was the best student, not because of grades, but he was so curious, and he was very engaging and wanted to talk and wanted to learn. And I think that's really what has made him successful, as you'll see throughout his life. Chad was born and raised in Muskegon. He graduated from Reese Puffer High School and then later Muskegon Community College. He married Leanne, that I mentioned before, his high school sweetheart, and they have 2 kids, Hobie and Charlie. Chad runs 3 businesses, WP Harbor, Dimension 4 Painting, Valero Private Equity, and is in the process of starting a 4th business called Brush Plan. Chad's New Year's resolution for 2026 is to not start any new businesses. Again, I think all those businesses really come from his intellectual curiosity, his general love of knowledge, and so please help me to give a warm welcome to Chad Lowy and his talk, Hobo Sailor.
Wow, that was awesome. Thank You for Smoking was the movie. It was a great movie. All right, so I wanted to start by thanking Professor Wible for inviting me to speak here tonight. Figuring out what to talk about was much harder than I expected it to be. It's been about 20 years since I was a student here at MCC. I had no idea why I was going to college or what I wanted to do with my life, so instead I bought this gorgeous 1970s sailboat in upstate New York. It was a piece of crap, though. A ton of rotted wood, nothing worked. Here I'm fixing the engine, which needed to be, worked on a lot. Plumbing, electrical, it all needed to be fixed. So I spent a summer learning how to fix the boat, and once it was ready, me and my girlfriend took the Erie Canal from the Great Lakes to the ocean, and then we sailed down to the Bahamas. We stayed there all winter, speared fish and lobster for dinner, made fires on the beach, and sang songs under the stars. We learned that eggs can last a long time without refrigeration, which is sometimes lacking in the exumas. We got married by an unlicensed pastor who lost his arm when he got hit by an airplane. It was the adventure of a lifetime. And I could feel this pull to keep going. It was like the Tolkien quote. You step onto the road, and if you don't keep your feet, there's no telling where you might be swept off to. Lack of money isn't a problem until you have a toothache or a broken bone. So we sailed to Florida, sold the boat, and moved back to Muskegon. Once we got here, I started working as a commercial painter. That's on the roof of the Manistee Theater up in Manistee, Ramsdale Theater. I started working as a commercial painter, got jobs all over West Michigan, like Ramsdale Theater. Over time, my wife and I saved up enough money for a down payment on a house. And one day I was painting handrails at the hospital in Ludington. It was December, it was freezing cold, and decided to start my own business. So in my living room, started a virtual assistant company. 6 years passed by, I ended up with a mortgage, 2 kids, an office, 28 employees. Seemed like a good time for a change. So I sold everything and bought another sailboat, this time a 2001 Lagoon 380 catamaran. And we sailed from the Great Lakes to the Florida Keys, this time taking the Mississippi River. We stayed down there again all winter, got to know the rhythms of Key West, speared lobster, plundered a shipwreck with my 6-year-old son, started a website, development company, hosting business, and all in all, it was, I would say, the second adventure of a lifetime. Very fortunate to have 2 of those possibly. And right before hurricane season, we started sailing up the East Coast, riding in this Gulf Stream current. That's a 100-mile wide current, travels up the East Coast of the United States at about 5 miles an hour. It's the fastest current in the world. So 5 miles an hour might not sound a lot, but yeah, riding it's pretty great. It doubles our speed. But it is also really, really treacherous. When the wind and the current are going in the same direction, it's really smooth, really calm, really comfortable. When they oppose each other, it gets super rough, kind of like Lake Michigan. We've been waiting for days for good weather, waiting around, and we finally had it. And the only problem is that right when we had this weather window, I was supposed to launch a new website. And it's not just any website, it was a website for the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce, the one in California. Netflix and Amazon were their customers, so it was really important that it went well. But this weather window was really important, so we got to go. So we're traveling far enough away from land to try and catch this current, but trying to stay close enough to shore to maintain cell signal so I could launch this website. And I thought, man, this is just crazy. Like, autopilot's running the boat, hoping we don't hit anything. We'd already traveled 3,000 miles down to Florida, now up to North Carolina, and we didn't want to keep sailing north and only turn around and go back down south the next winter to get out of the cold. And then at the same time, my web development business was taking off, so I was excited about that. So we came back to Muskegon for the summer, thinking that we could, catch our breath and kind of get things under control a little bit. But life happens. The business kept growing. My oldest son here is now 13, but he started school that fall, and we got really used to not having to turn the water off when we took showers, which is a thing you have to do when you live on a sailboat and there's a limited supply of fresh water. 160 gallons on the Lagoon catamaran could last us about 2 weeks. So we ended up never going back to the boat, sold it a few years later. And living and traveling on a boat was my dream. It was the thing that gave my life purpose and motivation. To be out there on the water was amazing. But one thing I learned while I was out there traveling in these different places was how amazing it is actually right here in Muskegon. Some of the best sailing in the world is right here in our backyard with the Great Lakes, and it was a wonderful proving ground for me. This is in the North Channel. This is right down the road from us here at Lake Michigan. It's clean. When I sailed across the Atlantic Ocean, there wasn't a single time when I could look out and not see a piece of trash or plastic floating on the water. The East Coast of the United States, It's got a lot of E. coli in it, which is a polite scientific way of saying poop. The beaches rival in Michigan, any in Florida, and we don't have the dunes, and they don't have the sharks. And the dunes are a gem. If you don't go hiking, you're missing out. They're amazing, even in the wintertime. I just took this picture the other day. People like to complain about the winter, but when we were on the boat, we would say, you don't get to paradise only sailing on sunny days. And my wife, who traces her roots back to Norway, where they have a saying, there's no bad weather, only bad clothes, so just get some good clothes. Muskegon's cost of living is still low compared to the rest of the country, and we have a thriving economy. When traveling down the Mississippi River, we saw places where there was one factory in the town and it closed, and the town was literally dying, many of these towns. In Muskegon, we have dozens of manufacturing facilities, aerospace, automotive, military, metal stamping, springs, not to mention jobs in manufacturing, healthcare, education, and hospitality. We have a great economy, but Muskegon also has something they don't have anywhere else, and that is my friends and family. And as the years have passed, I've learned that these people are irreplaceable. They're my best link to the past, and they're most likely to be there with me in the future. And I'm pretty lucky to live in a place like Muskegon. It's because they could have lived in Cario, Illinois, which would have been really, really sad. And I have this one friend, Zach, there. We were in a band together in high school. He graduated in the top of our class. He was very successful writing code, particularly for virtual reality. He got married. He had kids. We would text almost every week. We got busy with our careers, so there were lulls in that. But then, over time, he stopped responding. After struggling with schizophrenia for years, Zach ended his life. There was nothing he could do to retain control of his mind. 40 years old, it's not guaranteed. None of us know what's set in stone. None of us know what's in store. So don't wait to pursue your dreams, because time is running out. 20 years since I was a student at MCC, I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up. But what I want to be is a good dad and a good husband. And the most important things I've learned in that time are to set goals and work towards them like my life depends on it. And of all the places in the world to call home, Muskegon is pretty great. Thanks.
Wow. Thank you. That was great, Chad. That was inspirational, touching, and make you really appreciate where you live, so where we all live. So thank you very much. Great way to start the second half. I do want to say before I stop, or we stop tonight, because I've forgotten in the past, is that one of the great things about having an event here in the Overbrook Theater is that you get wonderful technical support. And I'd like to thank Andrew and Les for doing all of the work that needs to be done to put this on. So, thank you. All right. Our next speaker is Richard McPherson. Richard is an artist, art collector, and creative advancement professional who doubles as the Director of Development for MCC. That's in the foundation. He works for the foundation, basically. Richard used to work at MCC many years ago, and then we lost him, which was a mistake, to Harbor Hospice, and he worked there for many years, and a couple other places, I think. But we're so happy to have him back. I think Richard's one of the kindest and most organized people I know, so thanks for coming back. Outside of work, he's on a mission to ensure Muskegon County is the most culturally vibrant place where art and snacks coexist peacefully. I hope you like the cookies, and there's a few more as you leave. You can usually find him in the wild defending his last slice of pizza or trying to convince his friends that people watching counts as collecting art too. Please help me welcome Richard McPherson and his presentation, The Road to Ruidoso.
Thanks, Andy. Yes, I do love my pizza. So let's go ahead and get started. My family loves road trips. We took a holiday road trip this past holiday for 2 weeks. Our first stop was in St. Louis, Missouri. If you've been, this is the Gateway Arch. Incredible architecture, amazing. You get a chance to go up to the top. We did not. A little scary. best spot on our trip off Route 66. Unique name, even better fudge. They welcome you to Uranus when you walk in. And you also, if you're a fan of the 80s movie Big, they have a Zoltar machine that tells your fortune. So this is one of our favorite spots along the trip. Our next stop was into Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and to explore the underground, almost 1 mile tunnels that covered 20 blocks of Oklahoma City. Historical pictures, rotating art exhibits, lighting that changes on every corner when you go. Buc-ee's. If anyone's been, we stopped 3 times at Buc-ee's. This is well known for brisket sandwiches, 100-plus gas stations, immaculate bathrooms. We do not have one here in Michigan, but there is one coming in Ohio in April, and in 2027 we'll have one in Wisconsin. We continued on to Route 66, cool scenery, abandoned buildings, old signs, amazing spots for pictures like this one here. Incredible scenery to just explore and kind of take a moment to relax. Along the trip, we also met the amazing cast of Disney's Cars. Our exchange student who is here tonight is one of his favorite movies. This was in Tularosa, New Mexico. Even Tomater was there and said hello. No trip out west is not complete without a stop in Roswell, New Mexico. There is a UFO that is a McDonald's. Every single street lamp you see is shaped like this and has an alien face. And we did the incredible alien spacewalk and explored everything alien, which was amazing. Albin here, he wanted to explore the desert area, explore the culture, and loved to birdwatch. So we purchased some binoculars, stopped at quite a few wildlife refuge out there. This was one of our first stops. One of the highlights of New Mexico is the White Sands National Park. Surrounded by desert, but in the middle is nothing but white sand. You bring or rent your saucer and you go down the hill. This is him falling. But then I went, and with my big butt, I made a location for him to slide down the hill. So we spent an afternoon in ORVing through the Sierra Blanca Mountains. You rent these ORVs, they program your GPS, and you go for 2 hours exploring. As fast as slow, doing 8 888s and, all over the place. It was quite something. One local shop, anything crafted in metal or carved wood, is Ural's Mendoza Sculptures in downtown Ruidoso. We even found an alien wearing a Detroit Lions jersey. We spent 5 wonderful days in Ruidoso, above a cabin, and right above, unfortunately, where they had the floods last July in River Ruidoso. Shops, restaurants, Hatch, Chili's, wherever you can go. You are in shorts, which we were, and many people are in ski apparel coming down from the resort. We explored the resort town, looking at murals, placemaking projects, an incredibly diverse population. It's amazing to just go out and explore a city, something like this. Everywhere you look, in yards and residential, and walking down the street are mule deer and herds of elk. Comfortable with people. Even one morning when I was taking our dog out, an 8-point buck walked by me on the road and just kept going. Didn't even say anything. We kept going for a good hour travel up the top of the Sierra Blanca Mountains. Very short, no guardrails, high winds. At the top is a ski resort. We did not stay very long because we just came from Michigan, so we were ready to leave. Our exchange student has never had the opportunity to do a go-kart, classic American experience. So we did this for about 8 to 10 times. He did have the opportunity to beat Phil in the race, maybe 1 or twice. We also did the Screaming Eagle, a gravity coaster down the mountains where you're individually going, you have handrails. The Bosque del Apache National Wildlife Refuge is one of our favorite places. We saw 2 roadrunners, coyote, which we thought was exploring, hunting a bird, bird lover's paradise with tons of professional photographers, maybe from National Geographic or Animal Planet. My favorite location was Valley of the Fires and Mille Reyes Trail, created by lava-flowing valleys, gorges, yet fruitful, full of cacti and experiences. An incredible location for pictures. This next picture is my Remy. He's our 15-year-old mini poodle that this was his last road trip with us. We had to say goodbye to him 2 weeks ago. Hug your pets when you get home because they are your family. My family is here tonight, and this is a picture of my family. My husband of almost 10 years, Phil, and Albin, our exchange student from France, who are here tonight. I give you 2 challenges and 2 things to consider. If your family has the capacity of hosting an exchange student, do it. It's rewarding. You get to experience another culture. And explore, make memories, create a picture like this, and find a road to someplace new. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Richard. That was terrific. And I think you can see Richard's actually a very good artist, and I have a few pieces of his hanging at my house. If you're ever over, you can take a look. So thanks for that. I mentioned before, this is the 3rd year we've done PECHA KUCHA, and so we've had, we have 8 tonight. I think we had 9 and 8 the other 2 years. I know there's some of you out there, I can't really see, but that have participated in the past. So would those who have participated and given a PECHA KUCHA in the past stand up? Then years 1 and 2? Hey. Thank you very much. Thank you for getting us off to a great start. All right. All right. Our next presenter is Jen Wakely. Jen is currently the Assistant Director of Community and Programming at the Muskegon Innovation Hub. I have known Jen for many years. She owned a home goods store called Continuity on 3rd Street. Some of you been there before? That was a great place. I loved going in there and looking around and seeing what's new. It was always changing. It was so well curated, and it was always fun talking to Jen. Then she worked at the college for a while, and then became my realtor, actually. Jen's a hard worker, a transformer, and dedicated to being a good citizen of the Muskegon community. I always feel better after talking to Jen. Probably you do too, if you know Jen. Jen's a serial entrepreneur, a community builder, and a champion for entrepreneurs and small businesses. Her work focuses on helping people turn their ideas into action, fostering inclusive entrepreneurial ecosystems, and proving that work can and should be joyful. Remember that if you're in my business ethics class. Right. So without further ado, please help me welcome to the stage Jen Wakely and her talk, Making Waves.
Thank you, Andy. Thanks for inviting me, and I finally agreed to it. All right. My name is Jen Wakely. Here's where my story started. At 16, I was an average high school student, not a standout academically or athletically, until a marketing teacher pushed me to write a 40-page business plan for DECA, a high school business club. I had never heard of the word entrepreneurship, but I worked hard because someone believed in me. I won at the state level and placed in the top 20 nationally in Denver. This recognition from school, family, and community lit a spark that changed everything for me. I moved on to Western Michigan University, first in business and then into communications. Following college, I pursued an opportunity to work in communications role in Tokyo, Japan. Because why not? They are a leader in innovation, creativity, and boldness. After my stint, I returned to Muskegon, determining what urban city in the country I would move to when I realized Muskegon needed help. Downtown was an empty sandbox and nobody wanted to play in it. I got a job at the Chamber of Commerce in Marketing and Communications and made amazing connections, learned the ins and outs of economic development and the who's who while we pushed for business startups. My office was outside SCORE business counselors, so I listened to all their advice. After my first child was born, I took a leap and opened a brick and mortar store in the funky, edgy part of downtown. It was a dream. I handled everything, branding, buying, events, and became a go-to example and guide for others starting businesses. I built incredible collaborations with other young professionals. We launched a scrappy guerrilla marketing style campaign to show our love for Muskegon. It spread like wildfire and helped change how people saw and invested in this community. To deepen community connections, I brought unlikely people together in my storefront and neighborhood. We hosted charrettes with neighbors and businesses, reimagining the area as more vibrant as 3rd Street South and then as Midtown. Together we created cleanups, pop-up shops and events, music, and public art. These collaborations and connections brought awards and recognition, which fueled my drive to make a greater impact. They also introduced me to more people making waves in their fields and in the community, many of whom have become lifelong friends and advocates and are here tonight. I used this platform to raise money, to show up and say yes to unexpected things like dancing with the local stars. Energy in motion attracts opportunity. I began my municipal leadership journey by applying for an open seat on Norton Shores City Council. That field was packed and I was not selected, but I was appointed to the Planning Commission when they moved the candidate up to council. A few years later, I secured a council seat before even having to launch a campaign. It was a dream to help guide policy and shape the long-term vision for my community. While running my store, I started mentoring and aspiring entrepreneurs, first informally, then through a formal network. I became a certified professional coach and launched a coaching practice selling my store to focus on helping entrepreneurs and small business owners. I absolutely loved championing others as they pursued their dreams. I saw a lot of success with my clients and their achievements, but coaching from home over the phone left me feeling isolated. While personal turmoil in my family and circle, and now 2 kids, and life in general started to feel heavy and messy, I felt like an imposter. I couldn't continue coaching while I had those things going on. I realized I needed stability and community. I was on the verge of some big life decisions when I got a call from Muskegon Community College with a job offer at a critical point in life. I jumped at the opportunity and absolutely loved my time here at MCC in the Community Outreach Department, learning more about the college, supporting higher learning, and connecting the institution with the community. During that time, I got my real estate license and decided to dive fully into the field. As a serial entrepreneur, always seeking freedom, adventure, and new opportunities, I've loved this role for the past 8 years, helping people navigate the largest purchases of their lives, serving as their coach and guide, and providing knowledge and resources. As I aligned with my authentic self, divorced now, living on my own, raising my 2 daughters, and clarifying my personal goals, I unexpectedly met the love of my life, Matt, who is here tonight. Beyond parenting, it's been one of the most incredible experiences of my life. It took a leap of faith to trust and go for it. Our journey hasn't been without challenges, a long-distance relationship between Grand Rapids and Muskegon, blending families with 4 daughters, healing from the past and balancing our careers while staying community-focused. While my pivot to real estate was fulfilling, I still yearned for deeper connections and meaningful collaboration. I joined the Muskegon County Democratic Party as first vice chair and became active in local events. And my partner and I built our life together. We chose the village of Fruitport to blend our family, and I joined the Planning Commission there. We jumped headfirst, designing our home together. Residential was a new challenge since he's an architect of schools. We swung big, though. Lakefront, big gardens, smart tech throughout, and every step bringing us closer to our ultimate dream. On August 19, 2024, 7 years to the date after we met by chance, neither of us looking for a relationship, we got married in our backyard, surrounded by our family and friends, under a super blue moon. It was meant to be. Continuing to follow my dream and stay authentic, I joined Muskegon Rotary, knowing that's where my people are, dedicated community service leaders. On the night of the full strawberry moon last June, I wished for the dream job and got it. A role that combined everything I loved, encouraging entrepreneurs, supporting small business, event planning, advocating for Muskegon, and working with an employer who values learning, inclusion, work-life balance, and yes, with health insurance and PTO, which most entrepreneurs, we don't know anything about, right? I landed the position of Assistant Director of Community and Programming at Muskegon Innovation Hub. I continue to live by this mantra because it has guided me. Make waves. I've woven it into many facets of my life to remind myself to go for it, to take action, to play big, to follow dreams, be of service, create a life that I love and have fun doing, and always asking, what's the worst that can happen? I just kept saying yes to curiosity, connection, and the next bold step. Looking back, every chapter has been about movement and trusting. I end with encouragement to not be afraid of being bold, disruptive, and making waves just by being yourself. The moon does it all the time. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jen. That was terrific again. And we have one more speaker left. But before I introduce our next speaker, I wanted to mention that PECHA KUCHA is part of the Muskegon Community College Lecture Series, and we have more coming up this semester. We've got two more, one on March 16th and one on Monday, March 30th. The first one's on climate change and global climate change, and the second one's on explainable and responsible AI. So two pretty relevant subjects. Those are in the afternoon at 2:30, but they are open to the public, and I hope you can join us for those as you have tonight. And when we're done, don't forget to grab a cookie, and you're also welcome to go back into the art gallery and take a look at everything there. So, our final speaker now. Our final speaker is fairly new to MCC, but one of its most important members. Dr. Tucker Brown is the Provost and Chief Student Services Officer at Muskegon Community College. For those of you who don't know, Provost is kind of the second in command after the president. And I think Dr. Brown's been here for maybe a little over 6 months or so, and I'm happy to say I still like him. Anyway, all right. So Dr. Brown has spent over 30 years as a career student and lifelong learner. He started his college journey at Penn State University with a bachelor's degree in science, and then went on to Arizona State to earn a PhD in sociology. He was then a professor of sociology at Austin Peay State University in Tennessee, whose slogan is, "Let's go pee." He then took an administrative path to be a dean, vice president, and then assistant provost there. He has recently, of course, transitioned this year to be the provost at Muskegon Community College, preferring to say, "Go Jayhawks." When not provosting, Dr. Brown enjoys spending time with his friends and family, the outdoors, and vegetarian living. And from what I understand, he's a pretty serious skateboarder. And maybe he'll show that off if our next thing is to have MCC Has Talent or something like that. So, but it's my pleasure to welcome tonight's last speaker, Dr. Tucker Brown, and his talk, My Road to the Centennial.
Thanks, everybody. All right, thank you, Andy. Glad you still like me. And I was trying to leave my past behind, but I'm glad we're all caught up now. Let's go pee and everything. Very, very intellectual slogan we had there. I've only been here for 6 months, but I've been here long enough to know that I am the last thing standing between you all and yet one more treacherous drive home. So let's roll. All right, so the journey is about family and place. So I thought I would begin with the most significant influence in my life. This is my dad enjoying a cigarette somewhere in Southwest Philadelphia as a 4-year-old. The old man encouraged me to get as much education as I could or risk working in the steel mill with the rest of my family. Good advice, Dad, thanks. This is one of the 2 homes that I spent most of my childhood and adolescence in. This is the south side of Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, hardened steel town where the vast majority of my relatives immigrated and worked in the steel mill to avoid poverty in Ireland. Thank you, Pell Grant, for the opportunity. This is the flood house. Again, a questionable upgrade. We were able to afford this house because it was in a floodplain and uninsurable. If you've never stood in waist-deep water in your living room with all of the electric on, well, you sure haven't lived. This is my mom. My mom was the biggest supporter and champion for her children. My dad was the biggest influence, but none of this happens without my mom. She was a freshman in college in 1968, brought home the bacon and cooked it too. I asked her if I could build a ramp in the backyard. She said, yeah, I'll get the hammer. All right, this is the homies. Junior high dance, 9th grade, 1990, mullets and all right? Still rocking with these dudes. You'll see this guy in the white shirt in a much later slide, but it's the importance of friends and support and how we get to that next thing. We don't do it without them. The classic smirk at the start of 10th grade. Boy, did I think I knew everything. 10th grade was a very formative year for me. I got really off track as a freshman, making a lot of very questionable decisions. Smirk doesn't lie. Skateboarders can dunk. I'm back on track. Senior year, starting guard at Nazareth. Downtown Tucker Brown. Believe it or not, I could dunk a basketball, and without that, basketball saved my life. I needed that structure. All right, so on to college. This is Gill Street Blues. So I lived in this house with 13 other smelly guys in Happy Valley as a senior. Arguably the most fun year of my life. That is a beer pong table in the front lawn. And somehow I ended up on the dean's list too, so it's always important to balance that fun and right, professionalism. We are Penn State. Oh, here we go. Don't take any pictures of this. This is embargoed, right? This is the end of my senior year. Time to head west and become a professional skateboarder and go to graduate school in that order. Skateboarding hurts. Luckily, graduate school panned out. They gave me a PhD. They gave me a PhD? They gave me a PhD. I'm a sociologist now. Someone please tell the Academy I have arrived. All right, fresh out of chemo and I need health insurance. This is the press release photo from my initial appointment as an assistant professor of sociology somewhere in the hills of Tennessee. Hard to believe it was 30 years ago. What do children cost? Well, I'll tell you. 6 months of poisonings, all my hair, 40 pounds, 1 testicle. Throw in a couple skateboards, still seems like a bargain. This is my brother. He's no longer on the journey, but always with me, right? I look at this all the time to remind me that life is really fragile, right? And when you find yourself in a hole, what do? Stop digging, right? Hug your loved ones. I look happy here because I didn't know I had been thrown into the fire. In this week of my life, I was appointed as department chair and faculty senate president in the same week. This is where I really learned the most important leadership lesson of my life, which is you must strive to make everyone equally unhappy. I survived a highly competitive national search and was appointed as Dean of the College of Behavioral and Health Sciences at Austin Peay State University. It's a brave new world now for old Dr. Brown. Let's go. All right, remember the slide from the junior high dance? That's the homie on the left in the white shirt. Still friends. These are two of my oldest and dearest friends. Every summer we meet up and go push around on our skateboards. I promise that if I survived that national search and became a dean, I'd pick up the tab on the next trip. They held me to it. These are some important people who really helped shape my career. This is the Wolfpack. Some of the most influential academic mentors in my career. We all got hired essentially at the same time, which is pretty unique in higher ed administration. Learned so much from these folks. This is the photo from the first graduation that I attended as Senior Vice Provost and Associate Vice President for Academic Affairs. And then we got COVID. And so how do you attract students to campus during a pandemic? Well, you slime the administrators outdoors for charity, of course. And somehow we survived the slime and the challenges that came with that era. Yay. My gosh, that was something. All right, and then we made it. We're here. On a gorgeous summer evening, the Centennial Cruise welcomed me to MCC, Muskegon, and the Jayhawk experience. No one told me about all this damn snow, right? So I got here in the summer thinking, man, I'm living in paradise, right? Thank you all for listening. Cheers, drive safely.
Hey, thank you all for being here tonight. And I want to have one last round of applause for all of the presenters tonight. Wonderfully done. Thank you. That was great. That was great to hear everybody's stories and to do it in this different format. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're interested in doing one of these in the future, I think we'll do it again next year, so please talk to me. Again, enjoy a cookie as you leave in the gallery, and please drive safely. Thanks again. Have a good night.